Good evening and welcome to the public hearing of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. It is March 2nd, 2021. It is 6:30 p.m. Call this public hearing to order. Order of business is ordinance 2021-04, an ordinance to amend the City of Laverne zoning ordinance by changing the official zoning map for tax map 32, parcel 4, tax map 29, parcels 40 and 41, consisting of approximately 226.35 acres located adjacent to the intersection of Blair Road and Waldron Road, from an R1 low-density residential zoning district to a PDR planned density residential zoning district. This received a favorable recommendation from the Planning Commission on January 26, 2021. Each person will be given an opportunity to come forward and speak directly to the board. It is not a dialogue, so we get to hear from you. Whenever you come up, please state your name and address for the record, and we're going to allow each person an opportunity to come up one time before we come back for seconds. So essentially, we want to let everybody have a chance to come forward before we start going back through, if anybody wants to come up more than once. With that said, I will go ahead and open the podium for whoever would like to come first.
Hi there, my name is Kara Hobbs. I live at 115 Dobson Knob Trail. We do have a Nolensville address, however, we are in the city limits of Laverne. My name is Kara Hobbs, and my husband and I have been residents of Laverne for the past decade. We both are transplants from other cities, but are very proud of the life we built for ourselves here in our town. We started off in a little house across the street from Laverne High School off Wolverine Trail, purchasing that home in 2010. We put tireless hours of overtime, multiple jobs, and meticulous savings so we could one day build our forever home. In 2018, that dream became a reality for us when we built on half an acre at the Ridge. We knew with the rapid growth of Nashville, it wouldn't take long before the open fields would start slowly fading away. But with similar subdivisions in the area, such as McFarland Point, Pinnacle Point, and Martins Bend, we felt comfortable anticipating developments like ours would only enhance the family-friendly area that surrounds Rock Springs Elementary, allowing us to keep the greenery and rural undertones of our neighborhood. Starting off, I would clearly like to state my position that I am not opposed to development of the area under current zoning of R1, but I am opposed to the introduction of multifamily homes, townhomes, duplexes, and specifically commercial to our area. If commercial is consistent with what currently occupies Waldron Road, our children will be going to school next to Joe's Vape and Smoke Shop and Discount Liquors. Traffic that attracts that type of clientele, and a 24/7 convenience store in the middle of nowhere that's sure to bring exponential amount of crime to the area. Not to mention the map code just a mile down the street being listed as one of the highest crime areas in the city. BRS can promise all sorts of commercial prospects, but what experience do they have in commercial development? What's to stop them from just selling the property to another developer? And all these gentlemen agreements that they have made with the city then become null and void. And here comes Joe's Smoke Shop and the traffic that attracts such clientele into our neighborhood. Perhaps if you could show the community where quality retail has been successful on Waldron Road, you could change my mind. But looking at the rest of Waldron Road, it simply does not add up. What quality retail would want to come to this commercial space in the area when just a mile down the road there's rundown strip malls? There has been a tremendous amount of confusion and misinformation in this project. There has been so much back and forth between the Board of Mayor and Aldermen and the developer, and then there's what the developer tells the public, and then there's what the Board of Mayor and Aldermen are telling the public that we're still working on details. And the information from the developer online seems to change by the week. Nobody is getting the same information. And despite the mayor and a few of the aldermen labeling the citizens as being confused or misinformed based on comments made at previous meetings, that the public seems to be the only ones that have read through all of the materials, or at least the ones that have been made available to us and have done their homework. Mayor Cole, following our conversation prior to the Planning Commission vote, I felt that each one of my concerns had fallen on deaf ears. You continuously reiterated that initially the public has been opposed, but everyone agrees after talking with you this will be good with the city. As a member of a Facebook group opposing Arbor Ridge and knowing we have 300 active participants, a petition with signatures of over 600 residents and a number of everyone just agrees wasn't adding up to me. I personally took it upon myself to obtain public records from the last 30 days prior to the planning committee vote. I sorted through over 500 pages of email to the mayor and aldermen, tallying 79 in opposition and only 6 in support. 3 of the 6 in support were individuals that do not reside in the city, and to be clearly objective here, out of the 79 emails in opposition, I did not recount duplicates to the aldermen or those that were received as a part of reiteration to a phone conversation with the mayor, where individuals would again state their opposition to the project despite their conversations with you. I have a tally of those individuals, if you care to see, and hard copies of those emails with me today. Additional concerns among these emails and public records were alarming responses to the public's specific questions regarding the development and infrastructure related to the project. Many of those responses included phrases like, we're still working on those details, or just, we're not sure, or we don't know. How can you say you're doing due diligence in this planning when you don't have the details or answers for the public? It seems rather obscure that the Board of Mayor and Aldermen is in such a rush to push through this vote on this project when details are left unclear. Unless, of course, there's some underlying motive that the public is unaware of. You have left us with no voice, limiting participation for us to express our concerns and ask questions in a public format. And for some unknown reason, our city IT can't figure out how to allow the public to participate in a Zoom meeting. Seems absolutely unreasonable. We've had one single opportunity at the workshop last Thursday to express our concerns in a public format, and we're given 3 minutes. 3 minutes per person. The developer has had 2 one-hour-long sessions with the Board of Mayor and Aldermen to discuss their wants and needs and what appeared to be a well-orchestrated back and forth of questions without any questions or answers or public participation. Furthermore, earlier today you received an email of a petition which now contains 613 signatures in opposition to the rezoning. Please remember, Mayor Cole, just because citizens are not from our city, do not have a vote in this town, and you do not have their taxpayers' dollars, does not mean they won't be impacted by this decision tonight. We have verified at least 376 of those signatures as residents of the city of Laverne, being mindful that there are people with mailing addresses in Nolensville, such as myself, and Smyrna, who still live in the city limits. 376 is also the number that represents the votes you will not receive in November 2022 if you are to approve of this development today. In the Daily News Journal dated November 6, 2018, Mayor Cole is quoted as saying, "The people of Laverne want transparency and honesty from government, and we're going to give it to them. And I'm looking forward to working with any of the board members to make Laverne a better place for everybody and to restore transparency in government. To be frank, Mayor Cole, these revelations have left me to question your transparency, the very thing you touted after your election." Alderman Knoll, I'm specifically looking at you today. As I walked to the voting poll in November, you reached out your hand and proclaimed to me that you are the voice of the people. I specifically told you my concerns about this development with multifamily homes and commercial properties, and you promised a no vote as you agreed that our property values at the Ridge would suffer. Alderman Knoll, I trust that you are a man of your word. The same day, I regretfully walked past Alderman Waldron with only a nod in response to him thanking me for coming out to vote that day. Alderman Waldron seems as if he's been the only advocate for the cities of Laverne through this project, genuinely listening to our concerns, reaching back out to us with points to consider, and making suggestions on how the community can most effectively communicate our concerns with our elected officials. My concluding thoughts today is that it simply doesn't have to be this way. I find it overwhelmingly frustrated that we all can't come together so everyone's receiving the same information and the same details of this development that are clearly outlined to all parties. Why are you rushing to secure a vote on rezoning this massive project with such an uncertain future? Let's get together. Let's talk about it. All 3 groups together, BRS Development, the community, and the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. No more one-way conversations and this mismatch back and forth between what the developer told the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, what the developer told the public, and the change of this perception of the Board of Mayor and Aldermen that the citizens are confused or that we just don't understand. We do understand, and we want to be a part of it. This is a chance to do something great for the city of Laverne. This shouldn't be a win-lose, right-wrong situation for anybody here. We are all gonna have to give a little for the better of our community. Let's have a collaborative effort between the Board of Mayor and Aldermen, your constituents, and BRS to create responsible development and make it something Laverne can be proud of. By approving this rezoning without having a definitive plan other than build it and they will come approach to commercial and bringing multifamily homes to this community, you are taking away the very thing everyone in this neighborhood has loved about it. You are shortchanging hardworking, long-term residents of this area by allowing our property values to slip away so a multimillionaire developer can make an enormous profit, and in exchange, the city gets a small portion of the roads widened and a few extra pennies in your purse. Again, I ask that you listen to the voice of the people when we say no to rezoning for the Arbor Ridge development. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome anybody else who would like to come up to the board and speak.
Good afternoon. My name is Jimmy Cole. I live at 3236 Potts Crossing in Laverne, Tennessee, in the Woodsong subdivision. 3 years ago, my wife and I purchased a home there that we had worked for years to save the money to be able to buy. We bought the home in this area because of the environment that it sits in. I've emailed each and every one of you. I received responses from Alderman No, Alderman Waldron. No one else responded. You and I did have a conversation via Facebook Messenger. Guys, I am severely disappointed. How hard is it to answer your constituents? This is not good for our community. It's obvious the massive opposition to this. I don't understand. The responses that we get are, you don't understand. You don't have the information. Give us the information. If we don't have something, give it to us. Give us a chance to see what you see that we don't. Otherwise, we just don't believe it exists. And with that said, I'm going to cede the podium so someone else can come in.
Sir, podium is open. If anyone would like to speak, come forward. Please state your name and address for the record.
I'm Steve McGill. I live at 177 Blair Road, Laverne, Tennessee. Thank you for the opportunity. Mayor and Aldermen, we have been on quite a journey to get to tonight's vote, and it hasn't been a lot of fun for any of us. I'd like to apologize for the times when I let my temper get the better of me and when I may have overreacted to a misunderstanding. But clearly, the stakes here tonight are high. This vote has the potential to destroy a neighborhood and way of life for the people who have chosen to live and invest here. I won't dwell on the past, and I want you all to recognize that we know development is coming. I've been extremely blessed to have the open woods and fields across from me for the last 41 years. But I'm not naive enough to think that this lasts forever. The McFarland family has every right to farm, sell, subdivide, or do anything else they want with their property. We're not here to debate that. What I am here is to discuss the type of development we will see. Currently, the only multifamily dwelling on the west side of I-24 is the recently remodeled apartments on Waldron Road. Everything else has been single-family building. You have not heard us rail against the neighborhoods that have been built, even though they bring traffic and reduce the natural beauty of this area. Did I want Woodsong, Vineyards, Blair Farms, The Ridge, any of those? No, but they were within the zoning. It's completely appropriate for them to be there. They were well within their rights under the current zoning. I won't even discuss how my property got zoned for R3 in the middle of the night, and we were never informed, even though I did just discuss it. But the mayor can attest that my neighbors and I would like it zoned back to R1. Every square foot of R3 zoning attracts more R3 zoning and reduces the argument of how it doesn't fit in an area. Prior to this PRD approval by the Planning Commission this time around, I had discussed this proposal with Mayor Cole and Mr. No. Mayor Cole continually told me he did not think multifamily belongs in this area and helped me identify candidates who would agree with that position. Mr. No, you stood on my back porch and you said you would vote against this development if it contained townhomes. I told you I was a one-issue voter, and you said you had my back. And then I put your signs in my yard, in my father's yards, and I recommended you to my neighbors. I've been told there's 2 reasons this rezoning now makes sense. Those reasons are road improvements and sales tax revenue for the city from retail. I'll speak first to the road improvements. While it's now widely known that the city will forego the impact fees due if BRS makes some significant road improvements, that fact was not disclosed publicly until last Thursday. I had tried to get the answer to this question to no avail from the mayor and the city administrator. At $3,700 per home, this development would produce $2.4 million of impact fee revenue to the city. If the road work is worth $3.5 million, BRS is actually only making an investment of $1.1 million in roads. And if we're in the business of refunding impact fees, have we offered BRS the same deal if they build 500 homes under current zoning? What road improvements would we get if we provided them with $1.85 million of impact fee revenue for the standard R1 zoning? And let's not forget, these road improvements are for the benefit of their investment. Developers have a responsibility to their owners and stakeholders, not to the city or to their neighbors. In addition, these road improvements are negligible compared to the problems this dense development will bring. Shoulders on the safest part of Blair Road do nothing for the most dangerous parts. How does ballooning Waldron Road in the middle of 2 long stretches of 2-lane road with no shoulders help with traffic flow from the interstate? You are being sold a solution that does not address the problem. For retail, there are many issues with why retail is suddenly the savior of this project. The first is that retail was always in the project, whether people remember that or not. The only new retail proposed is the portion on the west side of Waldron Road. We have been told we will get a grocery store if we actively change the zoning in place. I don't remember anyone asking for a grocery store because we have convenient shopping surrounding us, albeit as is in Smyrna. However, Mr. Hahn's own words are that an area can have too much grocery for the demographics, and if it's not moved fast, other locations will win out. How in the world do we expect to beat out Nolensville with their infrastructure of sewer already in place and locations already mapped out for Publix and Kroger? We heard Thursday night that Twice Daily was committed to the eastern side of Waldron Road. Let's assume that's true. And they're not concerned about the 8 or 9 gas stations already existing or planned 1 mile away. Mr. Rasmussen stated that the city could expect to receive $500,000 in tax revenue from just the Twice Daily. We have asked about the projected tax revenue and have been told there are no studies. My own research, which Luann will support, shows that the average convenience store produces $4 million of revenue a year. Assuming the rosiest assumption that you could tax all of that at 1.375%, you would get $55,000 per year, a bit short of $500,000. The entire Walmart store produces $600,000 per year in sales tax per Mayor Cole, with 180,000 square feet. These numbers simply do not add up, and you're being sold a fairy tale with no guarantees and no commitments. And we are being forced to bear the brunt of this experiment. I simply cannot imagine how the thought of a 24-hour convenience store, heavily lighted, doesn't cause you to think that this area will be blighted by rezoning. In conclusion, I'm asking you to decide not only for the good of this community, but also for the good of the city. There are too many unknown items for you to overturn the existing zoning. And I want to make sure we're really clear. We're not talking about whether we allow a developer to come in or not. They are asking you to overturn the existing zoning that exists for a reason. How will the other roads get improved? How much sales tax can the city expect? And what is the precedent you're setting for other developers? I have another 30 acres across the street from me. Will that be R3 next? We have more acreage down past the trailer park. Is that R3 next? How can you prevent it? This is not the situation where you can only ask this developer for crumbs. They are asking you to overturn our existing zoning. Zoning exists for a reason, and you've taken the responsibility to represent your citizens. Through our petition with over 613 signatures, hundreds of calls, and hundreds of emails, we've made our request very clear. Please hear us and represent us. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McGill. Is there anybody else who would like to come up to the podium that's inside the room?
When I get to it, you can hold it up. Whoops. First of all, let me apologize. I'm sorry. Luann Grandinetti, 153 Blair Road, Laverne, Tennessee. First, let me apologize for my frustration exhibited before the meeting to you, sir. But I sat here last Thursday evening and saw 2 or 3 family members standing around all the chairs, 10 to 15 firemen standing inside the doors, and we are expected to stick by strict standards. I don't understand that. Perhaps you can explain that to me, but that was the source of my frustration. First and foremost, me and my neighbors are not against residential development. Although I do not live in a subdivision, in the 32 years I've lived in this area, we have gone from 2 subdivisions to 12 in this Blair Road, Waldron Road area. You have had impact fees for developers since at least 1990, according to the Laverne zoning ordinance, yet the city has made 0 improvements during that time on Blair, Waldron, Lake, and Carruthers. In December, on a 3-to-1 with 1 abstention vote, you nearly tripled impact fees after 22 years of intense development in this area. With a yes vote on this zoning change, our community will bear the burden of high density and commercial to do the bare minimum to improve Waldron and Blair at this property. I am opposed to this rezoning to build 200 additional townhouses, duplexes, houses, and dump commercial development into the middle of what is clearly residential. Why do you have, as Steve said, zoning regulations when you can so easily toss them out the window with the promise of additional revenue? From comments we've heard from some of you, this will result in a $500,000 windfall in additional revenues for the city. I'm going to expand a little bit on what Steve's got. Where did you get those numbers? Have you verified the estimate? All you have to do is a little on-site research, but I've done that for you. So would you turn it around to that side? A twice daily has been mentioned with this area. It took 1 afternoon for me to find that there are 80 twice dailies region-wide, producing $317 million annual for the parent company, TriStar Energy. That's the sum revenue of 80 stores, $317 million. Divide the dollar amount by 80. Each store on average then brings in a little under $4 million, $3,962,500 for a gas convenience store. My research conducted also documented that 41% of the sales are in store. You cannot count a gas tax at the pump. 59% of the sales are at the pump. You cannot count that because you get no sales tax from that. That is gas tax that hits when it hits the ground in Tennessee. That's where it's taxed, not at the pump. So you don't get any of that. And I confirmed this with my former colleague, Paul Deggs, at the Tennessee Department of Transportation, who is their chief engineer. The gas tax goes to the state and federal government to be parsed back out to cities and counties based on a formula which includes lane miles and population. Consumption, which of course is how much gas is pumped, does not matter. One more gas station does not matter. Oh, maybe a couple of $100 for you, but that's about it. It's about miles of road and population. So back to our math problem. Laverne receives 1.375% of the sales tax, not the full tax on in-store sales. The state gets a lot of that, and Rutherford County gets a lot of that. So this is your only portion as the city, 1.357 or 375. So if you multiply that amount by the in-store sales of 1,624,625, you have an annual sales tax revenue of $22,388. Let me say that again. You will get $22,338 from a gas convenience store making over $3 million a year. That's not even enough to pay for a rookie cop in Laverne. Let me point out one thing. If you work backwards, flip that around, Steve, from the $500,000 you think you might get from a twice daily, the store would have to pull in $36 million in sales. I don't know of any gas station that can do that. And a quick word about crime. According to all rankings I've seen, and you can look it up on the internet, thank you very much. You can look it up on the internet all day long. Very easy to find. Alarm companies put it out, FBI puts it out. Convenience store gas stations rank either number 1 or very close to the top, 2, 3 sometimes, in theft, robberies. Where do you rob a convenience? Where better to rob a convenience store than at 2 a.m. in the morning? In a residential area, maybe? On the corner of a road, of 2 roads? Which is the prime location for most robberies, or convenience store robberies. So let me summarize by saying, kill this zoning. Kill it like 3 of you did. Mr. Brown, Mr. Cole, Mr. Waldron, in 2017. For a 0 to 5 vote. There was 2 other folks who aren't here now. What's changed? Retail. I've just shown you it is not worth it to you as an elected official, to the city, or to our community. Thank you very much. Please vote no.
Thank you, ma'am. The podium is open if anybody would like to come forward and speak.
Hello, my name is Donnie Altizer. I live at 118 Valley Court. I live in Walnut Ridge Estates. I'm going to speak for my mother-in-law, Cindy Holmes. She lives at 107 Country Court in the same subdivision. So forgive me if I sound like I'm speaking in third party. I believe she emailed every single one of you, and she told you that she's a realtor, and she's opposed to the progress that each new house that is built will only increase the inventory for her to potentially sell. Every property owner has the right to build on his or her property. But she would like for it to remain zoned at what R1. She is asking you to make the concerns of her, or take the concerns of her family and most of the neighbors into consideration and vote no to the rezoning. And her reasons are traffic. There are 140 houses in the process of being built on Blair Road right now. 120 of those will be in Laverne originally. The builder of those homes was supposed to improve Blair Road. Now they're softening 2 of the curves, not to mention the talk of warehouses being built in the same area. Adding only 1 car for each household, that adds 140 autos. Using Blair Road daily, much of that traffic will be going on Blair towards Sam Riley. A lot will be going toward Blair, from Blair Road toward Waldron. Blair is already a hazard with only 2 lanes and no shoulders, not to mention the twists and turns and hills. And I'll pause right there because just yesterday I passed a wreck where a lady apparently was arrested for DUI, and the road was so curvy, not to mention she was under the influence, she never saw a school bus and she ran 3 feet underneath that school bus. You can't see. It's a dangerous road. There are over 300 houses that were approved before the real estate market crashed down on Carruthers Road. The building has begun there also. Some of that traffic will go towards Old Hickory Boulevard, but most of it will be on Waldron Road. Even though the Gwynn Farm at the end of Waldron is in Smyrna, the 600-plus homes that are being built there will impact traffic on Waldron heavily. Now you are considering rezoning the McFarland property to add 640 homes plus commercial property. The 2 lanes of Waldron Road is already a driving hazard. There are no shoulders, and some of the drop-offs on the sides of the street are 3 feet deep. The red light on Waldron and Center Point is not even with Charter Place, causing constant confusion. The 3-way stop at Waldron and Stone Ridge is a nightmare at rush hour, causing traffic to back up past the interstate on the exit ramp. So that is over 1,600 new homes. If each home only had 1 car and only half of those used Waldron Road each day, that will add 800 cars to the traffic already there. Not to mention that commercial business would add, especially with 18-wheelers delivering product. The last traffic count I could find was from 2018 in front of MAPCO. It was 10,690. What will it be with the coming years? At first, we were told that the developer was going to widen Waldron Road. The developer was only going to widen the road in front of the property, leaving the city to pick up the tab to fix the rest of Waldron Road to make it compatible. Now the developer is going to be reimbursed for the impact fees he pays on each lot, so the city is actually paying the whole bill. Commercial property. Once the property is zoned commercial, anything that fits that bill can go there. There's no guarantee a grocery will take that space, especially with the road that leads to it. We already have 2 small strip malls on Waldron that are rarely fully leased, and commercial property that far off the interstate garner that much business. I don't think they will. And to echo that lady that spoke earlier, grew up in law enforcement, worked in law enforcement before I moved to Nashville. Your number 1 spot, a convenience store or a residential house on the corner. Easy access to get away, get on the interstate. That's a prime spot. So we'll move on to schools. She has grandchildren that live in this area, my children. Grandchildren that live in Walnut Ridge. How will these new schools affect this new traffic affect our schools? Will the schools be rezoned? Will there be new schools built? They just added a wing on, I believe, to Rock Springs Elementary. You're looking at having to build basically a whole nother campus, kind of like Stewart's Creek campus, within years to come. Has anybody started to look forward toward that? How are we going to plan for it as a city? Utilities. The water department is in our neighborhood all the time. As a matter of fact, they were just there last week fixing another leak. We were told that it is cheaper just to repair the leaks than to replace the main. Our water pressure has decreased over the last year. If we have that much trouble now, what is the addition of those new homes going to do? I understand that the developer of Arbor Ridge can build 500 houses as it is zoned. That is 140 less and no commercial. It was said that the developer couldn't build houses that are priced at $300,000 to $400,000 because they wouldn't sell. In 2020, during a pandemic, using the perimeters of I-24 to Rutherford County line to Rock Springs Road, 108 houses sold with an average sale price of $310,380. Of those, 55 were over $300,000 with an average sale price of $378,000, and 14 of those were over $400,000 with an average sale price of $448,000. The farther you get from the interstate and the commercial area, the higher the prices of the house. So the developer can build and sell houses over $300,000. And I would argue, I've been in subdivisions because I work in construction, you have houses $300,000, $400,000, $500,000, and they're selling before the footer is even poured. That's how much growth is coming into this area. I understand that it will take years for all this to be built, but that only means that the surrounding neighborhoods will have to deal with the blasting, construction, construction traffic, construction road blockages for the next 8 years or more. Please let me know that you have received this email, which I think some of you did reply back to her, and I appreciate that. She sends her condolences and thank you for the time and consideration for this matter. Please vote no. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Again, the podium is open. Please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
My name is Becky Pollock, 8041 Burntwood Drive, Laverne, Tennessee. I've been here before with the same project a few years back. Nothing's changed except for the commercial portion, which is, crazy for that corner. I went and drove around over the weekend to kind of assess all of the new build that's going on in Smyrna. Laverne with the Portofino project that's already been approved. I hear there's warehouses that are going to be approved. Blair Road can't handle all that traffic without the city of Laverne putting funds in to widen Blair Road and straighten out those curves. This project and these developers are not going to do that to improve the infrastructure and the water issues. Our subdivision, we pay the city of Smyrna for our gas. The infrastructure needs to be there before these big rezonings take place. And commercial has no place that far down the interstate. There's no reason to put such a dense community in that place near a school. There's just not. There's too many wrecks on that road. It's just a hazard. So I would ask that each of you vote no to this project, no to the rezoning, and no to rezoning anything in that area until there's massive improvements to the infrastructure. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Again, the podium is open. Please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Steve Sanders, 1005 Lillian Court. I know several of y'all, hosted several of y'all before the campaign this last time, and actively supported some of y'all based on your stance regarding development in the area that we're discussing. We already have a problem, okay? We're ignoring it. Just with the houses that are being built, you have increased traffic, which is going to lead to increased maintenance costs, increased stormwater issues. We need those impact fees just to maintain what we've got. We can't afford to give them to the developer to widen a road that gives us more to maintain. So the answer is either fix it all or leave it the way it is and let them comply with the zoning. We're really only here because they entered into a deal with the full intent not to comply with the zoning that they knew was in place when they made a deal on that property. And now they're putting it on you to sell out the citizens so that they can make more money. That's what we're talking about. More rooftops means more water runoff, less infiltration, which puts more strain on a system that's already strained. You have to understand the development at the end of Waldron and Rock Springs. Guess who's going to pay for all that road traffic? Laverne. And we're not going to get any impact fees from this project to do it. And we're going to allow them to build beyond the zoning requirements. So that's why I would ask you to vote no. Stick to what you said and support your citizens. Thank you.
Thank you. Again, the podium is open. If you please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Yes, so to the mayor and aldermen, my name is Solomon Holly III. I'm at 184 Dobson Knob Trail. Like Ms. Kara Hobbs, we have a Nolensville address, but are in the city limits of Laverne. My wife and I came to this area in 2018. and we moved from the South Nashville, Brentwood area, and we wanted to build our dream home here, which we did. And one of the things that attracted us to this area was the fact that it was residential, it was away from all the hustle and bustle of Nashville, it was quiet, and at our age, retirement is just around the corner, so something that we really look forward to. And this is the area that we wanted to do it in. I worked in law enforcement for the past 14 years. I currently work in law enforcement now in Davidson County. Of those 14 years I've been in law enforcement, 6 of those have been in working in traffic. I can tell you this, from my experience working traffic in Davidson County, in some of the highest traffic areas, what you're planning on doing to Walden Road will be unsafe. It will be unsafe for children. It will be unsafe for residents. It will be unsafe for people traveling on that road. Working in law enforcement, I know that what you're going to see as far as crime with the rezoning that you plan on going through with, and I hope you don't, you're going to see an uptick in crime. Now, I like to think of myself as somebody who's kind of quiet, doesn't say much, but I can tell you this, I represent a silent majority of people that are not here tonight that do not agree with what you're planning on going through. So I would ask you to please reconsider. Consider what this will do to the area. Consider what this will do to the families. Consider what this will do to the future of Laverne. I'm a big proponent of the internet and looking at stats and things like that. One of the things, if you've heard of Ring and the Ring camera, they have one of these things called Ring Neighborhood, where you can actually look and see the crime in the area. It's pretty low for our area right now. I mean, we have things like a lost pet, a safety issue. Those are things that have happened on the incident map in the past 30 days. With the plan that you all are planning on going through, imagine how that's going to change in a couple of years when these few incidents turn into 30, 40 incidents, dangerous incidents with crime, with traffic. Please don't let that happen. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Again, the podium is open. If anyone would like to come forward and speak, please state your name and address for the record.
Yes, Judge Scott, 4001 Cherish Hope Court, and I'll be brief. The master plan for the city of Laverne calls for this area to be R1 zoning. That was appropriate then, it's appropriate now. So I ask that you vote no on this rezoning.
Thank you, sir. Again, the podium is open. If anyone in the room would like to come forward, please state your name and address for the record.
I'm Michael Pitts, and I live at 171 Blair Road. I'm gonna start with, I work a 8 to 5 job, and I asked off early today to be able to come here and voice my opinion against this rezoning. And my boss laughed at me and said, "You're really gonna go waste your breath." And I wanna just say, really hope my breath is not wasted. And y'all can look at what everyone else has said, what Steve has said, what all the huge points that people have made, and make sure my breath's not wasted. We'll remember how you vote. That's all I've got to say.
Thank you, sir. Again, the podium is open. Please come forward and state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Sue Miner, and I live at 780 Walnut Ridge Drive, Laverne. So they paved Paradise, put up a parking lot with a pink hotel, a boutique, and a swinging night spot. Don't it always seem to go that you don't know what you got till it's gone? They paved Paradise, put up a parking lot. These are the immortal lyrics of Joni Mitchell's hit 1970 record, Big Yellow Taxi. And they are as true today as they were almost 50 years ago. This is the reality of what rezoning the McFarland property will lead to in our peaceful corner of the world. And for what? I ask all of you, for what? Are you content with removing acres of trees and pasture land for a clutter of homes, an unwanted grocery store, a gas station, and a suburban retail parking lot? It is difficult for me to believe that when my husband and I moved to Walnut Ridge in 1987 to raise our son in this gorgeous part of Laverne, our community, our natural landscape, and our very way of life would be threatened by careless development and uninformed decisions less than 40 years later. Over the years, previous Laverne City Hall administrations made devastating decisions regarding planning and building in Laverne, and it is those decisions through the years which threaten us today. Now is the time for you, the current mayor, aldermen, alderwomen, to effect a positive change for the citizens of Laverne by voting no to rezone the McFarland property. Now I know that many of you have been swayed by the shiny objects that are the promise of road improvements and increased tax revenues, and I realize that both of these are important and necessary for growth and sustainability of a city. But again, I ask, what is the actual price for this? With the four corners of I-24 and Waldron Road a smorgasbord of gas stations and truck plazas, and our side of I-24 promised another large gas station and truck stop, it begs the question, do we really need yet another twice-daily convenience store plunked down in a pasture just a mile and a half down the road? Is this really what our community needs? With two strip malls on Waldron Road offering the usual Laverne choices of small restaurants, tobacco and cigarette stores, and the occasional small business. Surely a larger retail center with more of the same retail shops just a mile up the road is redundant and a waste of valuable taxpayers' dollars. Now, I realize that the prospect of a large grocery store coming to this area is a siren song for both developers and you because of the amount of revenue it would generate in theory. That may be true in other circumstances, but according to Mr. Hahn's own words from the BOMA workshop last week, and I quote, "The area is prime for a grocery anchor, not a 40,000 square foot grocery, but probably something in the realm of 20 to 30,000 square foot grocery, surrounded by anchor orbiting tenants," end quote. Now this sounds all well and good, but the fact is that public stores have footprints that range from 40 to 60,000 square feet. So what type of grocery store would the anchor grocery be? Obviously, a much smaller grocery, and not the mega-producing revenue maker like a Publix. And I would be willing to bet that most of us would continue to do our major grocery shopping at either Kroger or Publix, not at a corner grocery store, thus limiting overall generated tax revenues. In addition to this, there have been no major grocery chain stores that have committed to coming to the Arbor Ridge development at this time. So how can you even begin to calculate and bank on the proposed increased tax revenues that a phantom grocery would bring? These are just some of the questions that have not been adequately addressed and need to be answered before you can effectively vote to rezone this property. Please do not be swayed by the smoke and mirrors promised in this development deal. Now I know some of you will say Walnut Ridge community will have a new grocery store, additional retail shops, and a new fire and police substation. And I will tell each one of you that I want none of it. The promised grocery in all of its reality will probably turn out to be a corner store for milk and bread. The twice daily on the corner is definitely not needed, as again, just down the road you can take your pick from no less than 5 already established gas stations. As for the new fire station, well, there already is a firehouse half a mile down the road on Waldron Road, so this would seem to be a redundancy of services as well, and yet another waste of taxpayers' dollars. Now, I recognize the need to increase revenue in Laverne, and I would agree that this is an ongoing problem for civic leaders now. But I would suggest, rather than force this unwanted development on us and the retail center on the Walnut Ridge community and the surrounding areas, perhaps the city could work with us to find some solutions to this problem. As a resident of the Walnut Ridge community, I am also very concerned about the long-term nature of this project. With a 4-phase plan for development spanning up to 9 years, the Arbor Ridge project will have an immense and long-lasting impact on the residents of our community. From noise and blasting concerns to potential house damage, dangerous road construction and congestion, the prospect of lower property values and general inconvenience, this project will definitely impact our way of life for years to come. And for what? Currently, we have few city services for our tax dollars. In Walnut Ridge Estates, for example, we have no sewer, we have no gas, we have no trash collection. I say no sewer, no city sewer, we're on septic. How will the rezoning of this property and the ensuing Arbor Ridge development improve our way of life when it will forever change our way of life with its prospects of higher crime, more traffic, light pollution, and an unwanted development? I realize that part of the attraction of this development for civic leaders is a way to help fund the much-needed road improvements of both Blair and Waldron roads. That said, let there be no mistake. This comes with a price for the city. BRS developers have made it very clear that they expect to be reimbursed for their $3.5 million road investment through the impact fees that city will collect, and that their contribution to road improvements will only address road concerns that immediately adjoin the development property. Without a long-range plan and commitment for the rest of Waldron and Blair roads on the part of the city, this traffic corridor will become an even more dangerous road nightmare than it already is. Perhaps a more thorough study of traffic concerns and a more long-range solution to this problem should be addressed by the city before undertaking such a large commitment of resources and time. Again, let's not jump at the first shiny object that presents itself, but exercise good judgment and leadership and thoroughly study the problems associated with this difficult traffic situation. As a long-term resident of the Walnut Ridge community, I am also concerned about the economic timing of this project. We have seen what happened in the nearby community of Carruthers Farms. When that development started 14 years ago, promises were made for many of the same components and amenities that Arbor Ridge promises. Then in 2008, the recession hit, and the development fell on hard times. Residents lacked proper streetlights, had only partially finished road paving, and no promised retail components or amenities. For 10 years, residents of Carruthers Farms endured these hardships, and it's only been in the last 2 years that development in the community has begun in earnest again. With the current COVID economy, how do we know that this won't be repeated with the Arbor Ridge development, leaving Arbor Ridge residents and Walnut Ridge neighbors adrift in the wash of unfinished roads, empty homes, and plummeting property values? Again, a more measured view of development should be considered, and your vote to rezone should be a firm no. Now I know that progress is inevitable in Laverne, and I realize that 214 acres of pristine pasture land is the holy grail for developers. And our proximity to Nashville and I-24 makes the McFarland acreage an enviable property for just this type of development. However, development must be done responsibly, with a clear eye to the future and a respect for the surrounding community and the environment. The Arbor Ridge development does not address these goals. With a mix of townhomes, condos, and single-family homes, some only 10 feet apart, this development seeks to cram as many homes together, forcing it to be just another chock-a-block mass of high-density housing and retail units, blotting the landscape of our community, making it an unsuitable option for this location. Make no mistake, we are not against development on the McFarland property. We are against this development, with its current plan of 23 acres of retail and 654 homes cluttering the landscape. Simply put, this plan does not fit the community, and our way of life. The natural beauty of this land and its acreage is the last true natural resource that Laverne has, and it is incumbent upon our civic leaders to realize this and to plan accordingly. I would ask that you not repeat the mistakes of previous administrations in rushing to judgment on this development. I would also ask that you take the time needed to thoroughly study the proposal and the impact this development will have on your constituents in Walnut Ridge, Waldron Road, and Blair Road communities. I would also suggest that civic leaders include community leaders in their thoughtful discussions and planning sessions so we can come together to reach an agreement that would be mutually beneficial to this entire community and the city of Laverne. I believe the members of this committee have made our thoughts and concerns, have made our thoughts and concerns clear to you, Mr. Mayor, as well as members of the council. With our hundreds of emails and calls and online petitions signed by over 500 members of the community, an on-air local TV news story, and the area papered with yard signs in opposition to this proposal, the neighbors of Waldron Road, Walnut Ridge, and Blair Road have made our opinions on this development clear to you loudly and without hesitation. It is incumbent upon you, as our elected representatives, to listen to your constituents' concerns and vote accordingly tonight and in the future. It is my sincere hope that you will take my thoughts and concerns under advisement as you deliberate the merits of the rezoning of the McFarland property. And I hope that you will see the wisdom in denying this rezoning request. I would ask that you keep in mind the lessons learned from previous administrations and remember the words from Joni Mitchell, "You don't know what you got till it's gone." Thank you.
Thank you. Again, the podium is open. If you'd like to come forward, state your name and address for the record.
My name is Linda Reed. I'm at 115 Kearney Court. I did not intend to speak tonight, but I feel like I need to. Thank you, Mr. No. You're the only one that responded to my email. I appreciate that. My husband and I looked for years to find a place to live for what we considered our final home during retirement. And we didn't intend to live in Laverne, but that's where we ended up, and we love it here. We love the space between our houses. We love the rural atmosphere around. I realize development is going to come, and we're going to lose that, but we still want to live in a suburb, not an urban area, which is what this development is. It is an urban development trying to be put into a suburban area. I'm just pleading with people, I'm not going to say a lot, to please vote no on this rezoning. I can picture those streets in that subdivision that's going to be going on with all the condos, the duplexes, the 41-foot wide lots, particularly if they have teenagers, the streets are going to be just literally jam-packed with cars, whatever. That does not include what's going to be on Blair Road, Waldron Road, and it's just not good. And so I'm pleading with everyone, please vote no on this subdivision. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Again, the podium is open. If anyone would like to come forward and speak, just please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, my name is Angela Kruger. I live at 106 Hill Court, and this is my 12-year-old daughter. And our backyard would be looking at the gas station every day. All four of my children play in the backyard, and currently we are surrounded by a lot of elderly people who are precious. We all view them as grandparents. Some of these people actually built this home when the subdivision first started back in the 80s. And this is their retirement home, so they're not really looking forward to looking at a gas station either. every morning when they get up to drink their morning coffee. I certainly don't feel safe letting my children play in the backyard anymore if there's going to be a gas station. And I love so much that the police officer that was here talked about the crime that would go up. Again, I have a 12-year-old daughter, and I don't know if you've heard about human trafficking, but it's real. So it's terrifying as a mother to hear that the crime is going to go up that much, and I'm going to have to be scared just to let my children play in the sandbox and in their pool in their own backyard. I and all of my neighbors that I have spoken to, and I speak for 8 tonight who are elderly and have comorbidities and cannot be here tonight. So I speak on behalf of all of them. Some of them I actually help care for. We all have so many issues with this proposal. This proposed gas station would be in my backyard. No one wants a gas station in their backyard. The traffic, the noise, we chose to live on this side of Laverne because it's quiet, peaceful, and a country-type setting. Putting a gas station in our backyard will be loud at all hours of the day and night. It will decrease all of our home values because no one wants a gas station in their backyard. If it was your children, would you put a gas station in your backyard? That sound that you hear right now, it's called silence and quiet and peace. That's what we enjoy in our subdivision. A gas station will ruin that. If you want to know what houses around gas stations look like, go look at the MAPCO across the street from the dilapidated hotel that no one's done anything about. That's a perfect opportunity for commercial development. And it's also the worst intersection on Waldron Road that, again, no one has taken care of. Adding retail to this side of Waldron will ruin the atmosphere that we have. Waldron Road cannot handle the increase of 1,000 to 2,000 more vehicles. It just can't. Neither can Blair Road. Every single workday and school day, people already use my subdivision as a cut-through because the backup is so bad. They speed, they make a lot of noise, there is no one there to stop them. So what is going to happen when 2,000 extra cars and a gas station show up and there's no way to let them all out? It's going to be more traffic in my subdivision, on my road where my children want to ride their bikes and play with their friends. No one will want to live in our subdivision, and no one will want to buy in there, and that's tragic. The homes we have in Walnut Ridge are far nicer than the ones being built. We have 2,000 plus square foot homes with large lots, which is a rare find these days due to corporate greed. The proposed homes are townhomes and duplexes and tiny lots. Has COVID not taught anyone that people need space? People want to go in their backyard and be 6 feet away from their neighbor. How can you do that with townhomes and duplexes? There are so many people looking for larger lots so that they can have a garden to grow their own food in case of future lockdowns, maybe even have some chickens to have some fresh eggs, and space for their children to run and play and be 6 feet away from each other. Yet these are crammed together with no room for growth. Many other people would like to find a lot big enough to bring their aging parents with them, but no such luck with these proposed luxury homes. They have said these are luxury homes. I assure you, they are not luxury homes. The homes do not fit the style or lot size of any of the surrounding subdivision or independent homes. This is an absolutely beautiful tract of land, and I am devastated to see it turn to concrete. Just recently, when it snowed, we walked our children over to view it, which we do whenever it does snow, because it is absolutely gorgeous. And once it's gone, it's gone. You don't get it back. You will never be able to correct this terrible mistake of turning it into a massive subdivision. Have you not learned from the experience of what happens when you put too many homes too close together on the other side of Laverne and Lake Forest? I moved out of there in 2007, and now you're coming for this side of Laverne. So I'm beginning to think you don't want citizens like me who are calm, responsible, take care of my neighbors, and enjoy peace and quiet. Keep commercial in commercial areas, not in the middle of the country. You can't make the roads better or wider without taking people's land. There are plenty of townhomes and tiny lots on the other side of Laverne. We need larger homes and larger lots. If we, the responsible, quiet citizens, can't convince you to listen to us, then you, the local government, is no different than big government. It seems that money, corporate greed, and progress is more important than people. Please prove that you are better than that. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Again, the podium is open. If you would like to come up and speak, you can state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Paul Gentry, and I reside at 1047 Waldron Road. Moved there December the 15th of 2001. First, I want to say that I respect each and every one of your position as mayor and alderman. And I'd also like to say that I respect our policemen and our firefighters that serve us to the best of their abilities at all hours of the day. I also want to say that I support the McFarlands and their heirs to be able to sell their property to whoever will give them the most money for it, and more power to them. The reason that my family and I moved out to where we are in that area is to have more space and to get out of a planned subdivision in Smyrna that we lived in. We wanted a place big enough for our boys to hit baseballs and to have the baseball team over, their baseball team for practices and things. And that is the type of lifestyle that we and others in the community, all the people that are standing outside out here, want to see remain in as best position as possible in that same situation. I'm not naive. I know that that farm will be developed, and I'm just interested in making sure, to the best of my ability, with influence that I may have as a citizen and a voter in this town, to keep that big parcel zoned as R1. When we moved there, like I said, in December of 21, my original closing documents that I have says that my property is zoned agricultural. Now, the latest maps that I have seen, I'm magically R1. I was never notified of any change in zoning that was going to take place. So I don't know that anybody got to speak to that, to my knowledge, but I never knew it was going to happen. But it is now. And on the corner of Lake Road and Walden Road at the three-way stop, right in front of the elementary school, there sits a fire hydrant there. When we moved there, that fire hydrant had a green cap on it, which according to the National Fire Prevention Association standards, means that that fire hydrant at that time could provide a minimum of 1,200 gallons of water a minute at 20 PSI, 20 pounds per square inch. That very same fire hydrant now has an orange cap on it, which means that it can provide at 750 gallons of water a minute at 20 PSI. So in the time frame that we've lived there with the development that's gone on, that fire hydrant has dropped in capabilities from 1,200 gallons to 750 gallons of water a minute there. Have the developers, or have they been required, asked to do a study on the water flow? Or is the developer going to be required to increase the size of the water line in Walden Road? And the reason I'm speaking to that, at my home, we've had a very noticeable drop in our water pressure in the last 6 months. And I have a 2-inch water line that we ran when I built my home from Walden Road back to where our house sits back there. And with that size water line I've got now and drop of pressure, what's going to happen when we have all this big development that goes in if there's no improvement in the infrastructure for the water line coming up through there? All of you know, I know all of you live around close by, so I know that you must have driven down Rock Springs Road from where the Gwynn property is being developed, from Waldron Road and Rock Springs back up toward Blair Road on Rock Springs Road. You'll drive down through there and notice all the way down, some kind of infrastructure improvement is being made. I don't know if that's a water line or a gas line or what it is, but you can absolutely tell that it's coming from that development all the way down Rock Springs Road toward Blair. Are the developers going to have to improve the natural gas line, the water line, cable lines, anything else like that going through there? I haven't seen anything on any of the maps or any discussion that's come up, infrastructure improvements of the utilities. There's been a lot of talk about the roads, but nothing about the utilities that I am aware of. And if so, I would like to know what that information is. Also, on the maps that the published maps of the subdivision, the layout, the way that they want it to look, I don't see any consideration given for the two cemeteries that are on that property. There's the Bretagne Cemetery that has stones in it that go all the way back to the 1700s in it. There's also another cemetery there called the Williams Cemetery, where relatives of our neighbors, the Haynes family, are buried there. And from their anecdotal information, there are the remains of enslaved peoples also in that Williams Cemetery. And you can get on Google Earth and pull up a picture of that cemetery, and those two cemeteries will pop up on Google Earth. So if Google Earth knows about it, does our honorable mayor and aldermen know that there are cemeteries on that property to be there? So that's one consideration that needs to be thought of. And I, being an amateur genealogist myself, I like to see these old cemeteries be treated with respect and cleaned up, and to not be treated poorly. Because unfortunately, in the research of my own families, I know of cemeteries that were just plowed over and destroyed. And I hope such thing does not happen, and that respect are given to these cemeteries right there. As a husband and father and grandfather, I am not thrilled with the prospects of there being big lines of townhomes down Waldron Road, two big sets of them just very close to my driveway, nor am I thrilled with the prospect of having a commercial lot bordering my property there. But I've known some of you for many years, and like I said, I respect your position and the job that you do, and that you wanted to serve the citizens of Laverne. It takes money and time to run a campaign and ask people to vote for you. So in my conclusion of statements to you, I respectfully beseech each and every one of you to vote no on the rezoning of this Arbor Ridge prospect. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Again, the podium is open. If anyone would like to come forward and speak, now would be the time. You can state your name and address for the record.
Kim Gentry, 1047 Waldron Road, wife of Paul Gentry, resident of the adjoining said property, licensed contractor and realtor. I've come before most of you multiple times over the last 4 years. My intention is not to revisit the general arguments against the potential rezoning of this property, but rather present a quick summary of issues which may or may not have been addressed in your own personal minds, and potential concerns based on the many hypothetical scenarios presented by both Mr. Hahn and BRS developers. These items are in no specific order, so please listen carefully. First, for clarification, it has been so noted in the workshop last Thursday and again tonight that this proposal received a recommendation by the Planning Commission. However, I want to note it was a 4-3 vote. It was not unanimous across the board. We had several of you that raised viable concerns and offered questions to those developers with often given answers of, we can do that, we'll check into that, or maybe that's possible. In 2017, rezoning of the same property was unanimously defeated with Mayor Cole, Alderman Brown, and then Mayor Waldron voting against it. Specific reasons per minute 52.16 of the video were: Alderwoman Brown, safety on Blair is an issue, and we are here to represent the citizens of Laverne. Therefore, I vote no. Alderman Waldron noted infrastructure is not even started and would take 3 to 5 years to build out. Therefore, it's in the best interest to not approve such a development until infrastructure is in place. Mayor Cole had no comment. The overall proclaimed consensus of the 2017 BOMA was, we are here to serve the citizens, and we have heard from them. Therefore, we will represent them. In the January 25th workshop, Mayor Cole indicated to Mr. Waldron when he asked a question that the city was currently maxed out on liquor stores except for one, to me implying that a liquor store would not be in this area, as Mr. Waldron alluded to the possibility of that being a reality. However, the BRS proposal line itemization does clearly list liquor store as a permitted use in this commercial zoning. Next, as witness, the city did a simplified traffic count on Waldron during times impacted by COVID, which would not replicate the actual scenarios of the area. A complete traffic study was done in 2017, approximately 35 pages, and it proposed an additional 6,000 more daily trips with 752 mixed-use units and no commercial. With their proposed improvements, which are similar to those of BRS, major access points remained at a grading scale of a C or lower, with the Blair-Waldron intersection maintaining a failing grade. This also included turn point wait seconds increasing as much as 64 seconds at each major intersection. Again, this proposal in 2017 included no commercial. Mr. Coates, I want to say to you, I truly appreciate your continual concerns over our roads. You posed wonderful questions at all the meetings that I have been to. Although not receiving all the answers I think you wanted, but I appreciate your speaking for us. In front of my house, directly across from Rock Springs Elementary access, there is currently a northbound turn lane on Waldron of approximately 125 feet. It is quite dangerous, making a left turn into my residence as oncoming buses and school traffic top the hill from the Rock Springs direction, entering the same turn lane. Therefore, you have two-way traffic in a single turn lane. The sight distance at that point is approximately 150 feet. With this said, within this less than 2/10 of a mile in this proposed enhanced area of Waldron Road, access points are going to jump from 6 to 10. 3 being commercial, with one of those being an emergency vehicle access, 1 development access, Lake Road, and 5 personal residences. This 2/10 section of enhancement that BRS is offering will almost double in the current access points. We made a lifelong investment to move to the quiet side of Laverne, fully aware that adjoining property could become residential development, and even considered the rumored Blair extension possibly coming across the back of our property. This was 21 years ago. However, we never dreamed of a commercial interchange would be dropped into our front door. We are directly opposed to the fire police hall in our front yard. The peace we cherish will be constantly interrupted with sirens, alarms, and broadcasts. Equally important, the property BRS is donating for this fire hall is a gully. Mayor Cole indicated that he is working with BRS to fill and grade this parcel to a buildable standard. May I ask, is BRS going to get more impact fees to do this? Does the city have a plan for raising funds to build this proposed fire hall that Mayor Cole indicates is absolutely needed for the Arbor Ridge development? How many years will this development be in place before this fire hall can even be operational? I personally rather see the city keep all impact fees for the roads, for the fire hall, if that would be the case, to have control over the cost. I'm so afraid that BRS is posing this, but what is going to ultimately keep them from saying they've run into issues, more blasting is required, and then they start wanting more money without a contracted price? I would simply prefer, as well as some of those I have spoken to in our area, that we keep the commercial out of the residential area and simply find other adjustments in other types of taxes. Of additional interest, which my husband alluded to, is information surrounding this property. This is in regard to the Laverne's history. There are the 2 cemeteries, as he mentioned, and those who are enslaved are listed in the Williams Cemetery, although it is listed in the Archaeological Cemetery History of Rutherford County, that is a predominantly white cemetery. However, I have spoken with family members, and it is true that there are enslaved persons in this cemetery. Additionally, I have spoken with TDOA in regard to historical landmarks in our county. Specifically, all I could get answers for were my property. Although there are not any establishments or military encampments that are listed in the registry, I have confirmed with family members and historians of Rutherford County, and particularly in Smyrna, that there were Army maneuvers performed on the Haynes property, which adjoins the McFarland Farm property. That's all I know on this, but I implore that this is something we need to investigate before we do any rezoning. If there's history to be preserved, it needs to be preserved. Other questions I pose to BRS. Why are you pursuing commercial development with Mr. Hahn piggybacking on your work? What's really in it for you? What prohibits you, BRS, from selling off the commercial tracts within your side of the development, since you have verbally indicated this is not what BRS wanted in the first place? My question to Mr. Hahn. You noted in last week's workshop, we must move quickly or we will lose the potential grocers. Yet you are dependent on sewer development from BRS. I cannot put my shovel in the ground until I have sewer. This proposed sewer connection goes diagonally across the entire 226 acres to the investment property that you, Mr. Hahn, are anticipating purchasing. What if BRS causes you to miss that window for any given reason? What is Plan B? In turn, I asked BOMA, then, is the community disruption really viable Then, where is the tax revenue? Tax revenue then drops from a projected minimal amount with the hoped for 140,000 square feet of retail to even a lesser amount. This then adds to the projected 60 years to potentially collect and earmark $18 million, as provided by the city, to complete Waldron Road from I-24 to Rock Springs. And it still treats Blair Road as the unwanted stepchild. Finally, BOMA, in the future, will we hear the same story that we're often hearing repeated now? We can't undo what was done by a prior administration. Please process this and all the other loopholes or the proposed golden goose egg scenarios and evaluate the probability of it really coming to fruition. There are so many unanswered moving parts that I do not believe Mr. Hahn or BRS really care about for the citizens of Laverne. Their business is to sell development. Why wouldn't they cast a shining light on this endeavor? Do not be fooled by this mirage. Please vote no.
Thank you. Podium is open if anybody would like to come forward and speak. Do we have anyone else in the room that would like to come forward and speak? Not see, oh, just a moment. If you'd please state your name and address for the record, please.
Okay, my name's Darren Bradford. I actually didn't expect to speak tonight. I just learned of the meeting and wanted to hear the general feedback. I know for everyone who's already spoken that there's many more that were back in the office or the waiting area that maybe didn't feel comfortable speaking, so I wanted to go ahead and voice my concern. I grew up in Laverne. I moved here back in the late 90s, and I lived in Lake Forest when it was roughly about half the size it is now. I loved growing up there. I could walk. I would walk at night. I would go to the lake often and just really enjoyed my childhood there. When I got older, I married and moved out, and a lot of changes had happened since then. And right about the time I started looking for to move away, I moved to Nashville. I was trying to move back. I wanted to go to Laverne, and I had checked out the area, and I was really disappointed with the changes that I saw in Lake Forest and just the things that I had heard. So I ruled Laverne out, but a good friend of mine who was a realtor showed me the other side of Laverne, and I really fell in love with the area. I like it. It's beautiful. It provided me access to 24, and I could also take back roads to get to my wife's job in Nashville, and also my mother-in-law and different family that were back there. And it was a very beautiful drive. I loved that. So we decided to go ahead and buy a house. We've lived there since 2009. Right now, I take pride in my house. I take pride in my yard and my neighborhood. I live in the Woodland Hills subdivision. My yard backs up to Walden Road. Some of the things that I'm concerned about is one, so I actually cut my grass and I cut all the way to the road. I know a lot of people don't do that. I live on the side where most of our neighbors do that. But part of my weekly routine for cutting my grass consists of the first 10 minutes. I have to go and pick up all the trash from people who just throw trash out. And I've picked up beer bottles, I pick up grocery bags, I've picked up fast food. I'm concerned with the type of development that they're going to bring that will bring not only more people, but the type of people that'll be less inclined to take pride in their property and take pride in their city and try to not do those type of things. Also, just the traffic. I know other people have mentioned that, we've got a lot of back roads, a lot of low shoulders, and the amount of traffic that we already have and just the work and the time and even the construction and widening those roads, it really, to me, it not only seemed like it would be a lot, but it just takes away from the rural feeling that brought me back to Laverne. I love the beauty of it, and I love everything that we're at right now, and I wanted to get away from Nashville. You got a lot of those gas stations right there and people who don't maintain them, and it gets run down, and then you get if you jam in other businesses and different things, we don't really have that here. We've got a lot of greenery. We've got a lot of just natural beauty, and I would hate to see that go. I know I'm very happy with where I'm at, and I've had no plans to move. If they proceed with this, I'm very highly considering selling my stuff before it gets too, before it gets too far along, and then it's going to be harder to do that. I'd rather get out while it's still good and, find somewhere else to live. I'd hate to do that because I really do like Laverne. I like where we're at. It's a good central spot. We're very close to Nashville, but we don't have that city feel. We've already got plenty of gas stations. We've got plenty of grocery shopping and everything that we need. I feel like we're content. Like many other people have said, I'm not opposed to development. I know that's a natural process and that's going to happen. I would prefer to change the type of it. And I would also ask that you vote no to change the zoning of the area that we have. I didn't really plan on too much on the specifics. I didn't really know this meeting was coming, so I didn't come with that. But I feel like I represent your average citizen who, grew up and maybe lives more of a quiet life and has watched it changed. I know one of the things that stood up was that other woman who talked about, you don't know what you got till it's gone. And I can say, even in just witnessing the other side of Laverne and Lake Forest, it really is sad to see how much beauty went down there, and I would hate for that to happen to the other side of Laverne. That's really all I have, and I would ask that you please vote no.
Mr. Bradford?
Yes, sir.
Could you state your address? You did not do that.
My address is, sorry about that. My address is 226 Rollingwood Court.
Thank you.
And that's also in Laverne, Tennessee.
Thank you, sir. Again, the podium is open. I don't know if we have anyone outside who wants to speak. Is there anybody else that would like to speak on this rezoning? If so, come to the podium and state your name and address for the record. Anyone else? Any last call for anyone outside? Okay, seeing nobody else coming forward, I'm going to go ahead and close out the public hearing. We do not have anyone signed up for the citizens forum. So with that said, we will move into the regular meeting. So I will call to order the regular meeting for the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. It is 8:02 on March 2nd, 2021. We do have a quorum. The prayer will be by Alderman Waldron. The Pledge of Allegiance will be by Alderman No. If everyone would please rise for the prayer and the pledge.
Thank you, Heavenly Father. We come to you this hour asking for your blessing and help as we gather here. We pray guidance in the matter at hand and ask that you would clearly show us how to conduct our work with the spirit of joy. Give us the desire to find ways to excel in our work. In Jesus' name, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
With that, we have the approval of the minutes from the February 2nd, 2021 regular meeting. Need a
Motion to approve.
Have a motion to approve from Vice Mayor Brown. Is there a second?
Second.
Second from Alderman Coates. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
The minutes are approved. Moving on to department reports. Fire Department. Chief Beasley.
Thank you, Mayor, Alderman. I trust that you all have a copy of the monthly report. As you can see, we are just a bit ahead of where we were this time last year as far as runs, but real proud that our response times are still hitting that 4-minute mark, even after last week or the week before's snow event. So we're still doing pretty well. Anybody have any questions?
Any questions?
Outstanding. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Moving on to Police Department. Chief Davis.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, and Alderman. You have your summary in your packets. I just wanted to highlight on a crime summary, we do have some increases in the assaults of domestics, which is kind of conducive to this time of year when it's cold and most people in-house with others and not necessarily get along all the time. Also, I wanted to make mention, we did have an increase in cases of motor vehicle theft, and all were unlocked with one firearm stolen. That's all I have. Do you have any questions?
Chief, can you talk to us about the 9 p.m. routine, what people should be doing?
I'm sorry, sir?
The 9 p.m. routine with their cars, about checking their locks?
Yes, what we're encouraging everybody at 9 p.m. at night to make a note to themselves, set an alarm on their phone, step outside just to make sure that their cars are locked. That would help us out a lot with that. Also, we're increasing parking enforcement. That would also help have officers in the neighborhood to somehow curb the thefts from vehicles as well.
And Chief, can you speak a little bit about the interview that you were on just recently in regards to our fallen K-9 unit, Jacques?
Yes, so a gentleman reached out by the name of Gregory Sher. He's with a mortgage firm in Washington, D.C. He reached out to myself and Officer Darby in regards to, he does a salute to a worthy cause every month. And the month of March, he wanted to do a salute to Jacques, the fallen K-9 officer that we had to just bring recognition to that situation and also to assist in raising money for our K-9 program. It kicked off yesterday, and I hadn't checked, but hopefully there's some donations there for us.
Wonderful. And are you able to comment at all about what all was occurring today?
Yeah, I can make some comments. Some of you may know we had a situation to where 2 officers responded to a gentleman in an intersection of Waldron Road and I-24. He was slumped over the wheel, so we naturally assumed that there was a medical situation going on there. When the 2 officers got there, the car was still in drive, but this gentleman was unconscious at the time, so he butted up against the car nose to nose so that he wouldn't slip off the gas pedal and go. Well, he got alerted to that, and he woke up and took off. He took off in a pursuit. In the process, damaged 2 cars, and pursuit went down Waldron Road, and then later into Nashville, and he wrecked out just over the Hobson Pike intersection there. He sustained some injuries at Vanderbilt right now. 2 officers was injured. They're good. I think that's all we have right now. It's still pending right now, so we're still in the process of getting more information as it comes in.
Any other questions, the Chief? Thank you, sir. Moving on to Parks and Recreation Department, Mr. David McGowan.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, Board, thank you. You have the parks numbers for the month. Help desk tickets, 184, man hours, 26. I think those are backwards, probably 26 help desk tickets, 184 man hours. Some of the projects, new deck and ramp at the police substation. In the process of finishing up touches of remodeling the kitchen upstairs at Public Works Building and turn that into an office. You see our upcoming event is the Easter egg drive-through, March 27th. I believe the library is going to partner with us. We're going to try to pull that off in the park. Starts at 10 a.m. Upcoming meetings, March 15th, Park and Rec Advisory at 6 p.m. March 15th, Historical Preservation at 7. And then March the 18th, Senior Center Advisory at 4:30. Any questions?
David, if you reach out to Sheree Roberts, she may have some things to partner with through the DARE program.
Yes, sir.
For the Easter drive-through.
Yeah, I think she had reached out to us maybe a week or 2 ago. I don't think we have completely followed up with her, but they did express some interest in joining with us. So we'd love to have them. So it'll be us, the library, and the police department. So we encourage everybody to come out. We're going to try to do it safely. And Easter Bunny's going to be there looking to see folks. Any questions?
I've talked with David and Kathy quite a bit the last couple of weeks, and I'm really excited about what they got going on for spring and summer, and hopefully with COVID it'll be easing up. But I'm excited. I hope the
I think we're fortunate, we've been able to pull off some of our bigger events over the course of the last year. We're hoping things lift up a little bit and start easing. I think we're looking forward to the spring and the summer. Hopefully we'll have some pretty good turnouts at our events.
And David, we're always praising you when you come up here, so it's time to let you go, and we want to praise Kathy.
Oh, no
She
doubt.
has been God sent, and she has took the bulls by the horn, and she's 100% all business.
Yeah, and I prefer that you guys do praise them and keep it off of me, because they are the backbone of the department. That whole crew, both sides, without them doing what they do, we couldn't do what we do.
Does anyone have any other questions?
David, how did the Greenway fare in this recent storm?
The parking lot did pretty well. You know, the last time we had a major storm, it washed back out again. So the parking lot where they came in and concreted that, saw cut it and concreted out, that held up pretty well. The underpass, you know, we're always going to have issues with it holding water in any major rain event. So it takes half a week for that to dry out during good weather.
Thank you, David.
Yes, sir.
One other thing, David, I want to comment on, which is the senior center, which is under Parks and Rec. I know one thing that we've been working on for the last couple of weeks, Melissa's really headed it up with the state, with GNRC, is a possible drive-through vaccination site.
Yes, I think they got a little bit of information on that yesterday. I think the final details may still be pending, but they were in a process where they were trying to figure out how they were going to get some of the seniors to Kroger's to do that, because at one time we thought we were going to do it a drive-through at the senior center. They think that fell through, and then yesterday we got news that, yeah, it's still back in the works.
Right, and then we're just basically waiting with GNRC. They're sorting out some things on which dates they can have different people in different areas to do the drive-through on, so.
Yes, sir. So hopefully we'll get that rolling too, and that'll be another good service for the citizens of Laverne.
Yes, sir. Any other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you. Finance Department, Ms. Phyllis Rogers.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Alderman. You have the financial report in front of you for year-to-date up through the end of January. Just want to say general fund is holding strong. Sales tax is doing really great this year. We're way above projections. Second page is your bank balances. Third page is comparison to prior year. And the only thing I have really to add is that we are at about 85% of property tax collections, which is a little bit below where we were this time last year, but we've received a bunch of mail today, so hopefully we'll be up to our normal for sales, property tax collections. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on to the library, Donna Bebel.
Mayor, Vice Mayor Alderman, good evening. For the month of February, you can see our statistics there. Our attendance for 18 days was 2,646. So we are moving up slowly but surely. Numbers aren't what they used to be, but they're getting back in there, and we're really excited about that. A couple of things I want to bring to your attention. We're still in our winter reading challenge. We invite everyone to join us now through March the 19th. All you have to do is check out books, audiobooks, DVDs, and CDs, and you receive entries. Those entries are put into a box, and we draw 4 winners out each month. And if you'll notice, we have a total entries of 1,458, so we're really excited about that. Our story times have been recorded and put on Channel 3. We are missing our in-house story times, but our story time, Miss Lorna, Miss Janice, and Miss Sherry, they're still real excited to get the literature out to the children and the music and the fun. So people can watch it on Channel 3 and also view it on YouTube. Summer reading is just around the corner, and our summer reading 2021 is Tales and Tales. We're going to have a drive-through kickoff on Saturday, June the 5th, and details will be coming soon. Laverne Public Library Board will meet Monday, March 8th at 5 p.m. Any questions?
Miss Donna, can you talk to us a little bit about what's coming for the library with y'all's book drop-off? As far as the pouring of the concrete and the...
Oh, yes, yes, we're really excited about that, and it would have been wonderful to have it during the snow. But we are going to be transforming the front part of our entrance to the side. There will be some concrete there. We'll have a book drop that you can drive up to and drop your books in. We'll also have a nice bench there for anyone later on who would like to sit out and wait for a ride or just sit and out of the sun. But we are excited about the book drop, especially with our curbside service. We still are offering curbside. But yes, sir, that is coming very soon.
Thank you. Any questions for Donna?
The February was a rough month for you with the snow and everything, but spring's coming on, and, you know, I know you got some good things coming on, and we're all excited about it, and I'm excited about the March 8th meeting, and thank you, Donna, for everything you do.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And if you would notice our statistics, the attendance was for 18 days. So we felt pretty good about that. Thank you for your comments.
Wonderful. Thank you, Donna.
All right.
Moving on to the water treatment plant, Mr. Dwayne Lowry.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Alderman. I'm here, I'm Dwayne Lowry with Infomark. I'm here to let you know of some personnel changes that are going to happen. Greg Purcell is moving on from the project manager. He's taken a job within Infomark in Danville to help improve his experience with the wastewater front. So this will be his last week on site, minus anything we would need him for in the interim. Danny Campbell, he'll be taking over as interim project manager. My role within Infomark has me directly over Laverne from a regional perspective, which I wasn't prior to January this year. You know, when I was here in 2018, I was still a corporate employee, but now I'm over to the Laverne facility, and I'll be working with Danny and continuing to provide the service for you. So I want to let you know about those changes. As far as pumpage goes, we treated 86.028 million gallons of water, which is about 3 million a day, and we delivered 66.1, which is about 2.36 million a day. We've been continuing to work on the Paul membrane unit. We got a pump replaced, we got the water heater repaired, but now we are dealing with some cleaning in place that needs to occur, and the hope is to have the unit back up and running by the end of this week. That's what I'm pushing for. The filter project that's been going on, the 1990 side is what's currently under construction. The 2003 side is back into service. We readjusted some valves that we were having problems with on the 2003 side, where everything's working well now. And we are moving along with a leak test that we performed, and we found a minor leak between filters 2 and 3, but nothing major, and a bunch of other work that the contractors have got completed. We had a Scada system communications failure on February 11th. I'm jumping ahead a month. The cold weather came in, put some ice on top of McFarland tank where the antenna was placed, and we lost communications between the distribution system and the water plant from February 11th until February 20th. You know, we had MR Systems come out and do an investigation. They couldn't find everything, they didn't have everything they needed on February 12th, I'm sorry. So I had them come back out on February 13th, which was the day before the weather was supposed to roll in, but the weather rolled in sooner. They got on top of the tank, it got dangerous, so we stopped the job. There's no point in anyone getting hurt because of all the ice and everything that was going on. So we made adjustments at the plant to our pumpage to kind of hold the tank steady, to keep the community within water. And then on Monday, February 22nd, when everything thawed out, after we got the connection back, MR Systems came back out. They replaced the antenna that was bad on top of McFarland tank, and our communications came back. So the system was working internally like it's supposed to. McFarland tank is designed to auto cycle, and the auto cycling worked during the whole outage. So we didn't have any problem with any water issues. We were just not able to cycle our tanks like we normally do during the event. And that's all I have for the month of February. Any questions?
Can you talk to us about the customer service complaints?
Yes, sir. We had 12. We had, as soon as I flip the page, 6 were low water pressure and 6 were air in the line. It's very common for this time of year for there to be air in the line. What you normally notice when you pour a glass of water through a faucet that has an aerator in cold water, you're going to get a cloudy look that will clear up from the bottom towards the top. When it clears up from bottom towards the top, that's the air that's in the line. Air in cold water, the oxygen level in cold water is at its highest. The warmer the water gets, the lower the oxygen level gets. And when you take that, we leave the plant at around 108 pounds of pressure. So we're keeping that air in pressure. And when you release it through an aerator, it can cause this problem. It's most noticed in the winter. It can happen in the summer, but not very often. And as long as you're noticing the water clear up from the bottom towards the top, there's nothing wrong. That's just air in the line, especially if it's real quick. There's serious concerns if you see it settling from the top towards the bottom. That's when you should call us directly so we could come up and check what's going on. And any citizen could call us with any of their customer complaints. They just give us a call at 615-793-6536. And there's a line, an option for water quality complaints. Just call in. We'll be more than happy to check them out. But the air in the line is something that probably the most I've seen since I've been involved with the warm water system.
Okay, and a couple of these I see are low water pressure, which I know we just heard from some residents talking about that as well.
Yeah, most of those are from the PRV valves, the pressure reducing valves. Most people have a pressure reducing valve on their home, and those valves can go bad. So, there is some potential that during that communications event with the bad weather, that the tanks were not as high as they normally are because we weren't able to see. The utmost importance was the safety of everybody. So working with Michael Dietz and his crew, plus our crew, making sure no one got hurt. So we went and visited the tanks whenever we could to make sure the levels were okay, but we were pretty much maintaining the level versus what we normally do, which is cycling the tanks and putting them at a higher level. And that was just because we were kind of blind in what the communications would show us.
Any other questions?
So Greg has been very instrumental in helping and volunteering and donating to the senior center. Do I need to throw his number away and get Danny's?
You can throw his number away, get Danny. Danny will be just as helpful.
All right, just want to make sure.
And if he doesn't know that he'll be just as helpful, he'll find out in about 2 minutes.
We're going to be working on a yard sale for April like we did a couple years ago, and Infomark was extremely helpful.
Yeah, we'll
So
be
I
more
want to
than-
make sure I got Danny on speed dial.
Yep, please do.
Any other questions?
Yeah, I know y'all been struggling to keep up with demand, and we've been buying some water from Smyrna, and we got some improvements on the way down there. When we get back up in the par.
So part of the issue comes down to the Paul unit and the problems we've been having with the supply pump and then a heating element that's required for the cleaning of the unit. And we just got the heating element replaced. We've had 2 different contractors work on it, and we finally got it working. So the clean in place is occurring now. That should give us anywhere from an extra 400 to 600 gallons a minute of flow, which would be close to what we're pulling from Smyrna. The other issue came when we were going to start, I was working with Kyle, and we were going to start trying to get the flow up to do all the water from the plant right before the communications failed. So when the communications came back, me and Kyle haven't spoken yet, but we're trying to figure out the timing of this because the 1990 side is expected to be started up the end of next week, assuming the contractor stays on schedule. I haven't, the last I heard was yesterday that was still the plan to shoot for, what's Monday? Monday's March 8th, so I think it's March 11th that we're supposed to start up the old side and we'll be back to full operations like we were before. So we have pumped, so the one side of our facility is rated for 4.5 million gallons a day. And we were in 3.5, 3.6 during this time. And when the goal was to try to get us up to 4.5, but when we lost communications with the tank, we didn't want to overflow a tank because we were pumping too much water and causing a bigger ice problem, or even potentially structural damage to the base of the tank. So we kind of been working with that. With everything we've been doing on, there's always been a little adjustment here, a little adjustment there, but we haven't been able to get away from buying the Smyrna water.
That valve is at the Jefferson Pike Bridge. Is it still in use, or did we abandon it?
I'm sorry, Alderman Walden, I do not know.
The valve hooked to Smyrna, only one we getting water is at Woodsong, the
It's
Woodsong
it's
subdivision?
from a pump, and I don't know enough about that.
Yeah, we're getting the water from Woodsong at a pump there. That's where we've been getting it, because that's the only point of connection, since we're higher pressure than what Smyrna is. We have to pump it back, so.
Yeah, I didn't know if that one at the Jefferson Pike Bridge was abandoned, or is it?
Yeah, we're not connected there.
You're not connected there no more? Okay. Thank you.
No, but hopefully we will have the water plant back up and working where we're doing renovations on the whole system, so.
Yeah, we should be good. Everything's going well. The work the contractor's doing, they just did what's called a bubble test, which is an air test of the nozzles that go in the filter. They started that today. I haven't heard any of the results, but normally when you don't hear anything, it's going well.
And that's replacing, we're going through with this project, doing the nodules, the media, and the filters too.
Yeah, so it actually is the full filters. So we take everything out of the filters, we power wash the filters, we replace the nozzles, we replace all the filter media, and then we have to disinfect and put it back in service. We're also inspecting all the valve shafts to make sure all those are in good shape. And in some cases, they've been replaced, and when they're good, we've been leaving them as they've been. So we had 4 shafts to replace on what's known as the isolation valve, which probably doesn't help you guys, but that's what it's called. And they were just recently, I guess, 2, right before this weather came in, those were fixed. So we're moving right along. It's going very well.
Any other questions? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Moving on to old business. Second reading, ordinance 2021-03, an ordinance to amend the fiscal year 2020-2021 general fund budget. Need a motion to approve or deny.
Make a motion to approve.
Have a motion to approve from Alderman No.
Second.
Second from Alderman Coates. Alderman Waldron.
Aye.
Alderman Coates.
Aye.
Alderman No.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Brown.
Aye.
I vote aye. Second reading passes. Moving on to the consent agenda. Need a motion to approve or deny.
Make motion to approve.
Have a motion to approve from Alderman Coates. Our second. Alderman Waldron.
So moved.
Aye.
Alderman No.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Brown.
Aye.
I vote aye. Consent agenda passes. Moving on to new business. First reading ordinance 2021-04, an ordinance to amend the City of Laverne zoning ordinance by changing the official zoning map for tax map 32, parcel 4, and tax map 29, parcels 40 and 41, consisting of approximately 226.35 acres located adjacent to the intersection of Blair Road and Waldron Road, from an R1 low-density residential zoning district to a PDR, planned density residential zoning district. This received a favorable recommendation from the Planning Commission on January 26, 2020. A public hearing has been held tonight, starting at 6:30. And with that, I make a motion to defer, to send this back to Planning Commission so that the process, as far as the townhomes, can be looked at and reevaluated.
I'll second. For discussion, or can we, after we vote, then we can discuss?
Once there's a motion and a second, we can discuss.
Okay, I basically just want to ask some questions. So there's some transparency here, make sure that I understand things. I guess this first question would probably be for Evan.
Yes, sir.
Maybe, Evan, maybe. So it has been brought up that the developers can come in there without any rezoning and build 500 homes without doing any kind of infrastructure. Is that a true statement?
No, sir, I don't think it is, and the reason why is that the rezoning or the zone would allow a specific use. In this case, if it's zoned R1, they're allowed to build single-family houses. That's one component of the process. The other component is the platting process, which has to go through the planning commission. That's where you have a concept plan, preliminary plat. The reason I mention those things is through the planning commission process is where the planning commission has the right under the subdivision regulations to make sure that the development and the infrastructure that goes along with that is appropriate and good for the city. So I hope that answers your question.
And, cause, I mean, let's call it what it is. We've got those big developments have been out there, and as far as I know, no board has ever held their feet to the fire and put in the infrastructure, or at least we wouldn't even be having some of this conversation if the roads had been fixed and so on and so forth. I don't know. I wasn't here when that slipped through the cracks, so I don't know. My next question is, if this fails and they come back and want to do that kind of building, are they required to build a certain type or size or style or lot size or any of that, or can they just come in there and build whatever they want to?
That's a great question. I probably need to defer to the city planner on that question, and I don't know if he's in the room, but whatever the R1 zone provides, they would be allowed to build it. And I don't think there's any requirement like specifically what type of building materials used and that sort of thing. I don't think there's any requirement for that, just that it be a single-family home. But both the city planner might be able to comment, or maybe.
Is that something you know, Kyle? Or even Evan? I'm not Evan, but what's his face here? Alderman Graham.
Who are you referring to? Okay.
I'm
I'm going to write that one down. Remember that
I
one.
was having a
Alderman
blind
Coates,
moment.
Alderman
Graham.
Coates.
Those in here, but yes, it goes back to the building materials. In the zoning ordinance, building materials as far as R1 is not addressed, so that is something that's in their design booklet. So if you do rezone and do the design booklet that they want, you have building standards that they have written in there of whether it's all brick or 80% brick, whatever their standards are. As far as the R1, it's just a 15,000 square foot lot, but you know, it can be vinyl, it can be hardy plank, it can be brick. There's no set design standards that we have in R1.
So they could build homes then that would absolutely destroy the home value out there if they wanted to, which I don't think they will. But I just want to make sure we got clarification on all this. Now, Bo, I asked about the infrastructure for if they come in there, are they only required to like put in one turning lane, or they don't have to do nothing like what we got out there now? I mean, let's face it, all those developments have come in out there, and absolutely nothing has been done to Waldron, Blair, or Lake Road.
Yes, sir. There would certainly be a much lower level of improvements in straight R1 zoning. Of course, they're going to have to do traffic studies, which is typical, especially with a project this size. So they would do those traffic studies in conjunction with Mr. Leach, the city engineer. And I'm positive those are going to result in dedicated turn lanes. Beyond that, I wouldn't see a lot of improvements, that they would be required to do. As for the home type, and I heard that on the monitor in there, it all goes back, Kyle mentioned the 15,000 square foot lot size. So that's whatever house they choose to build on that 15,000 square foot lot is up to them.
Okay. My next question, this may be for Kyle, I'm not sure. Either straight zoning or rezoning. Are we good with Metro sewer as far as out there?
As far as the metro sewer, that connection's further down, and that really wouldn't have, it does have something to do with this because there's always going to be additional sewer. And then, of course, you got to look at the capacity that we're allowed to give to Metro, but this is not going to put us over that threshold. The sewer that's always been brought up is basically what we currently have is a pump station that's at the southeast of the property, and all the sewer is going, for that basin is going to have to go down to that pump station. So there's going to have to be a pump station upgrade, force main upgrade, and then, of course, when they build the development, there will be a gravity sewer that is installed with the development. So all that sewer will need to take place prior to, and that's kind of where it goes back to the statements being that the commercial or across the road needs sewer to be able to sell. What's basically being stated is gravity sewer is not in this area as far as currently out there today. So if that commercial lot was to sell today, they're going to have to either run a sewer line, gravity, all the way down to the pump station that's currently there, so they'll be buying an easement, running a very long line, or they would be more than likely put a pump station on their own property and pump back over the hill to the ridge and connect to the sewer there. There's many different sewer options, but probably the cleanest will be, if this development happens, would be to go through that development down to the existing pump station and upgrade that pump station. And if the development doesn't happen, there's still going to have to be sewer run through the subdivision. So whether it's rezoned or not, you're going to end up with sewer in that subdivision, or they couldn't have the houses.
I was thinking that Metro had some sort of limit on X amount of gallons that they will accept. And
We do have a contract with Metro as far as we've got, I think it's 4 that's actually got, flow that you can characterize. Those 4 locations, yes, we do have a max amount of flow that we can give to Metro. And if we go over that max amount, then we pay an overage charge. So yes, that eventually, could be a question that really needs to be raised. But like I said, at this point, this development will not cause us to go over, the amount that we can give to Metro.
And what about out there in that area? I've heard just heard different problems about it. What about the water pressure and the water flow and all of that? Is all of that good out there, regardless if it's zoned or rezoned or whatever?
Well, the water, as far as what's currently out there, yes, it would be sufficient for the number of homes that they've provided with the information we've been provided so far. One of the things we've got on our capital list that's citywide, because again, this goes back to, we've had road projects that's been brought up by numerous citizens tonight, and, Walden Road needs to be improved, Blair Road needs to be improved. As far as the water line, there's currently, I think it's 8-inch on Blair Road that we have in the capital plan to go to a 12-inch in the near future. So once we go to that 12-inch, it'll definitely be sufficient in this area, and that'll address some of the concerns that's been brought up tonight. The other thing with the low pressure that's been brought up tonight, and we'd have to look at it, is currently, we're doing the treatment plant project that's been brought up a while ago, and the pumpage from Smyrna, and also the issue that we've had this past, or about 2 weeks during the rain or the ice and the snow, that we were keeping the tanks at a maintained pumpage because we could not see from Scada. They could not see at the plant the level of the tank, so they didn't want to overflow them because that's going to cause a bigger problem. So we stayed at maintained a flow that we knew wouldn't overflow the tank but would have sufficient water. So that level that it's been at the last few weeks may be some of the reason for the lower pressure. Also, is the tank, instead of it being 80 or 90% full, may have been 60%.
Okay, and my last question is, and something I didn't know, I just found it out tonight when Gentry back there brought it up. Where are these cemeteries?
That is a great question. I do not know of a cemetery, but clearly sounds like there's 2 cemeteries on it. Now, we do not have a cemetery, and we don't have a cemetery list that the city maintains. So it's basically up to the property owner and the developer, and I think Evan can probably tell you case law, or basically what the state law is on this. If you have a property that has a cemetery on it, you're supposed to disclose that, and you cannot sell the interest of the cemetery to someone and them not know about it, and they've got to keep it as a cemetery.
That is correct.
And if you look at page 172 of the packet, both cemeteries are marked on the BRS development, where they're showing phase 1, I believe. They're right there on it.
But like I said, I don't know where the cemeteries physically are. I don't know if it's a marked grave, if it's, you know, what's out there.
Can you come up here, Terry?
Absolutely. Terry Rasmussen, BRS Development. The locations of the cemetery are based on Rutherford County. When we do a full ALTA survey, those will be verified. There'll be a chain or a black wrought iron fence around them and access to them. And as Evan stated, that's required by state law.
I didn't know they were even out there. I guess I'm through.
Any other questions?
I got some questions. Send it back to planning commission, to adjust it. They might come back with less condos, less commercial. Send it back to planning commission. We're just kicking it down the road. They can sugarcoat this thing, but I think the people here tonight come to hear a yes or no answer, and this is prolonging it, the agony for another a month or 6 weeks or 2 months. And I'm totally against deferring it back to the planning commission. I want to state that. I think the people here tonight is wanting a clear answer. I don't think kicking it down the road 2 or 3 months is going to clear up anything.
So if the developer is willing to work with both the city or the community on concerns, we shouldn't work with them on that?
Well, we come tonight to vote on it, yes or no, and that's what I come to vote on it. So that's, like I say, I'm stepping down from my step stool. I said my piece, so.
One of the residents out there brought it up, and you'll have to excuse me, Steve could probably tell me, brought it up, said, why don't, I think it was Steve Sanders that said it, that, for the developers to come and talk and work with them. So I think deferring it is good, and, we've waited this long, 4 weeks, So anyway, I'm done.
Anyone else?
You jump in, Mr. Mayor. I think to continue discussions for potential compromise is the way to go. We've got some good points tonight from the 18 people that spoke with some good comments that need to be brought up and addressed with the developer. And I think to continue discussions for another month is not negative. It's just the correct thing to do, and then we can vote one way or the other at a later date when everything's been addressed.
Anyone else? Seeing that? Alderman Waldron.
No.
Alderman Coates.
Aye.
Alderman no.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Brown.
Aye.
I vote aye. Motion is deferred. Moving on to Resolution 2021-05, a resolution of the City of Laverne Board of Mayor and Aldermen to declare property owned by the city to be surplus to the city needs and directing disposal of the same. Need a motion to approve or deny.
Make a motion to approve.
Have a motion to approve from Alderman Coates. Our second. Alderman Waldron.
So moved.
Aye.
Alderman no.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Brown.
Aye.
I vote aye. Resolution passes. Moving on to Resolution 2021-06, a resolution to write off Water Department bad debts. A motion to approve or deny.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Have a motion to approve from Alderman no. Need a second.
I second.
Second from Vice Mayor Brown. Alderman Waldron.
Aye.
Alderman Coates.
Aye.
Alderman no.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Brown.
Aye.
Resolution passes. Moving on to Resolution 2021-07, a resolution to abandon an existing public utility easement located at and adjacent to 121 Charter Place, tax map 29, parcels 2.02 and parcel 2.08. Need a motion to approve or deny.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Have a motion to approve from Alderman No, our second. Alderman-
Discussion?
Yes, sir.
When will they start that? Do we know?
The abandonment or the demolition?
The demolition and all of that stuff?
From speaking with Mr. McDonald,
Uh-huh.
they are awaiting on this easement to be abandoned before demolition starts.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Any other questions?
I do have a question on this. Evan, are there any consequences to this decision that we may need to know about?
Well, I'm sure there are probably always unknown unknowns, but with respect to what we have, all we're doing is disclaiming interest in an easement that we've never used, and at least according to the engineers, we will never need. So if there were a possibility that we might need that utility easement in the future, then this would not be something we'd want to do, but if there's no possibility, then there's no point in maintaining it.
But the city's getting no revenue off of it. I mean, we're not getting paid for it, we're just abandoning it, giving it away.
Yes, sir, that's right.
Alderman Waldron.
So moved.
Alderman Coates.
Aye.
Alderman No.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Brown.
Aye.
Motion passes. Moving on to appoint or remove board and committee members. First, we have the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee. We have 3 terms open, and I will appoint Giles Perry, Rick Autry, and Laura Davidson to those. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed?
No.
Motion passes. Moving on to the Senior Citizen Advisory Committee. We've got 1 term vacant with 1 applicant, and that is Rick Autry. So I'll reappoint him to that board. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Abstain.
Okay, and then last would be the Local Emergency Planning Committee. We have a request for Greg Purcell to be replaced with Danny Campbell as the water treatment plant representative. So I'll appoint Danny Campbell to that spot. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. He's my new go-tie. I gotta have him.
That is approved. Moving on to number 9, motion to approve a technology services agreement with Benefit Express Services LLC. I will motion that we defer this. We have not gotten all of the language with this correct yet, and so the city attorney is asking for some more time to work on that. Is there a second?
I second.
Second from Vice Mayor Brown. Alderman Waldron.
Aye.
Alderman Coates.
Aye.
Alderman No.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Brown.
Aye.
And I vote aye. Next, we have motion to approve water line easement from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers for the 24-inch water line along Stones River Road. And I believe this is also the same situation as well. We're got a request to defer this, so I'll make a motion to defer it so that our city attorney and our assistant city administrator can work on the language. Is there a second?
I
Second.
second.
Second from Vice Mayor Brown. Alderman Waldron.
So moved.
Alderman Coates.
Aye.
Alderman No.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Brown.
Aye.
And I vote aye. Moving on to mayor and alderman comments. Alderman Waldron.
Thank you for being first. Again, I hate to bring this up, but again, you know, I'm trying to put this on the agenda and once, and the mayor pulled it off. So I have no choice to keep on running it. Everyone knows about the coal train hit list. That's no secret. That being said, the liability of lawsuits could cost the taxpayers hundreds of thousands, even millions of dollars. People, we have no choice. My fellow board members, if we sit here and do nothing, we're just as guilty as they are. It's time to do the right thing. That's me.
Alderman Coates.
I'd just like to say to citizens, if they saw the police report tonight, just if you're leaving your car outside, please lock it. It just stops a lot of theft and other aggravation and problems for our police. Number two is, just want to also push out there that COVID is still out there, and so although injections are going in arms, let's just keep a constant care of what's going on with yourself and other people. And number three, I think, Mr. Mayor, that we should put Mr. Steve through a test to recognise who's on each board.
Come on, man.
I'm just kidding.
Thank you. Alderman No.
A couple of us went to Bridgestone, and not going to go into detail about everything that we talked about, but I learned a lot. I just want to tell people at home, if you're watching and listening, if you are in need of a job, especially if you're a young man or woman, Bridgestone's hiring. They're paid good money. We toured the factory. It looks like it's pretty hard work. But don't sit at home. There's plenty of jobs in this city, plenty. Bridgestone being one of them. So go up there and tell them Alderman No sent you, and maybe it'll help. I don't know.
Thank you, sir. Vice Mayor Brown.
I have a rather large announcement to make tonight. I think, it's kind of evident that we can't always predict what's going to happen going in the future. And so a couple of years ago when I ran for this position, I did not foresee what I'm about to tell you, and that is I have purchased a home that is just outside the city limits, and it is still within the county, but that would preclude me from continuing on as vice mayor. So I've tendered my resignation with a very heavy heart. It was a big decision for me because I have lived in this town for a very long time, and I have had such an enjoyable time working with the employees of this city, with the city administrator, the assistant city administrator, with our city attorneys, with fellow members of this board, and with the constituents of Laverne. I have developed friendships that will last a lifetime and will continue long after my service to Laverne. And I've been honored to serve this community, and I look forward to many more years in the Rutherford County area. Thank you.
With that said, Melissa, we've known each other for years. Not always on the best of terms, but over the years, I want to say that I have gained a wealth of respect for you and your heart for this city. And we thank you as much as you said it's been your honor. The city has been honored as well by your service. We thank you for that. With that, I call this meeting adjourned.